Hello there, loves, and welcome back to the Psychic Sages, your podcast for all things psychic development, spirituality, and Reiki. My name is Linda, and I'm joined today by my lovely and wonderful co host, Megan.
Hi.
And today's episode will be all about our personal journeys with Reiki. In today's episode, we are going to share our personal experience with Reiki so far. If you are looking into learning more about Reiki itself and how it is to learn Reiki, the structure of courses, etc., you want to hop back to last week's episode where we talk more about that. So this is really about our personal experience. We're going to leave that episode down in the show notes for you. So if that's you, hop back, listen to that one first, and then you can join us for our wild ride because it has been a wild ride for each of us.
It has.
So, Megan, maybe let's start with talking about the ways in which we would describe our relationship with Reiki. Do you want to start?
Yeah. I was thinking about that this morning before you and I connected to record. My relationship with Reiki is like when people talk about having a relationship with yourself that is unconditional love, where you show up for yourself in every way that you need and hold yourself in every way that you need to feel supported and always have your own best interest in mind, but in alignment with like the highest good of people who are around you and your community. And of course, like an all-knowing you that understands like the context of you living your life in the moment that you're in, maybe where you're headed or maybe where you've been. It's like being best friends with yourself, and yourself is just this higher consciousness that can assist you in any way that is for your highest good. It's incredible. And it's the thing that I was thinking about this morning was this trust. It's almost like because I know that I'm always safe with Reiki, it is, I don't want to say the first time because I've had beautiful, trusting relationships with human beings, but it's like a level of trust that I haven't ever experienced before. Like I fully trust everything that comes to me through Reiki. And that's so liberating and exciting to know that everything that comes to me through Reiki is, yeah, for my highest good, and that it's going to be an adventure. And yeah, I'm always excited to see where it goes. How about you? How would you describe your relationship with Reiki?
Well, I think you brought up a good point with the safety and security. As I was listening to you, I realized that it's the same for me, and I hadn't realized that before. So thank you for that, first and foremost.
I hear that.
I want to touch a little bit on the adventure. I feel like it is an adventure for me to be supported. Like Reiki to me is like it's a guide. One of my guides is Reiki. One of my spirit team guides, I would say, is Reiki, and it guides me on this absolutely wonderful adventure that is called life, and uh, helps me out when it comes to creating my schedule, knowing almost ahead of time when I need a bit more quiet time so that, let's say, less clients book a session with me for 1 week for whatever reason. And I think about it beforehand, and then the week rolls around, and I'm so grateful that I have that week to myself more with less clients. So, these are more practical ways, I would say, in which I feel like it's a guide. And then, of course, also the way in which I move through the world changed as a result of that as well. Like you said, there is a lot more trust. I feel like I can handle whatever comes my way because I always have that tool to turn to. Um, Particularly if something is, let's say, emotionally more distressing, I have this very wonderful, beautiful, self nurturing energy healing tool uh, that helps me move through anything that will come my way, and already has, because it has been a wild ride of like changing my life and moving, like transformation after transformation after transformation. Basically, I feel like the guide Reiki is shifting me into the place where I need to be to fully fulfill my soul mission and be on my soul path. And the last, let's say, 2 years, because yeah, it's been 2 years, the last 2 years have been a period of making the slower adjustments to shift me into that position where I need to be. Ongoing, of course, like I'm not finished, but I feel like there was a very, very strong in between stage of my life of transition, of growing, of developing the skills I need to develop. We'll talk about that a bit later in the episode, which skills I'm talking about, um, and the ways in which my psychic abilities opened up, which I needed to do in order to shift into the right place.
Yeah, beautifully said. I agree with everything that you said. I talk about Reiki like it is an entity. You're right. Reiki is like a guide for me. It's a part of my support system. And that trusting connection with timing, right? Like
Hmm.
it's so amazing when things come up which are challenging. In the past
Hmm.
before Reiki, my reaction would have been like, "Oh fuck." Like, but not like, "Oh fuck, I have to deal with this." More like, "Oh fuck, what did I do wrong?" Right?
Yeah.
Like this is coming to me. Did I do something wrong that this is coming to me? Or um, oh fuck, how could I Megan's MO in the past would have been like, how can I like get around needing to deal with that? Like if
Yeah.
there's any way that I could skirt around that avoidance. Yeah. But now with Reiki, everything that comes up, I'm like, yes, I can do this. This is for me. There's a reason why this is coming to me. And also, if I don't have the tools to deal with it this very moment, they will be delivered to me.
Yeah.
It's wild. The resources just like fall right into your lap as long as you are surrendering. It's like this dance, right? Of trust and surrender.
Yeah. I am.
Surrender.
Okay, so if you're not watching, I just crossed my arms and said very unwillingly, yeah, because the surrender part is true and it's a topic for me right now in my life. Okay, like surrendering, control. I spoke about that in the last couple of episodes, I think, is a topic that is very much a healing topic that Reiki is working with me on and through me when it comes to this topic and surrendering. And, when you're collaborating with someone, like with Megan, for example, there is
Right.
a part that I can't control. And
Right.
that's not to say that when I'm collaborating with someone, I want to micromanage what they do. Not that whatsoever. That's not how
Mm.
I fly. I don't like that. I don't work that way. I don't operate that way at
I
all.
can confirm that. No, you're not a micromanager.
But it's more so that, okay, I'm excited and I want to do it now. And when you're collaborating with
Mhm.
someone else, there are so many different factors at
Right.
play, particularly
Right.
for us and doing this podcast. That is like the surrendering and trusting that the timing will be right. That's a lesson I'm learning right now, and
Well, and
probably
you're
will
a
continue to learn.
creative.
Yeah,
As a creative, you get lit up and you want to create and you
yeah,
want to lean into these ideas that are coming to you, and like
yeah,
it's very understandable. It's really inspiring, actually.
yeah. I'm
Mm.
laughing because I stayed up very late last night creating
Creating.
something. I think I went to bed at like close to 1 a.m. because I needed to finish that thing.
It had to be made.
It had to be made. Yeah, it had to be made. If you're curious, I made a cloud shaped earring holder. That's
It's
what I did.
adorable. It's adorable. It was it was worth whatever impact it has on recording today. But I mean, okay, that something like this podcast, for example, it's a really good tangible example of how Reiki leads one to an enterprise. And
Yeah.
then come on, I think anyone watching or listening who's done anything like this or could imagine what it's like to put yourself out there this way, to have guidance come to you like it did to me. I originally thought I was going to put a podcast out that was just me by myself. And I knew that I was supposed to do that. And the difference is, many years ago, I had the same guidance come to me, and it was about writing a book, which I never did. Because I was like, who am I to write a book? Who wants to read my book? That doesn't make any sense. Even though I knew it was my intuitive guidance, I questioned it and I ignored it. Then when this guidance came to me with Reiki, that's so beautiful. It came to me, I thought, I'm supposed to do a podcast. Linda and I were in touch, and I said, we weren't just in touch, we were in close communication, sharing all things going on with us. And I said, I'm going to do a podcast. I didn't even say like I think I'm supposed to do a podcast. I remember being like I'm going to do a podcast. I said
Yeah.
that very clearly. And then what Reiki did was Linda's reaction was if you need any assistance of any kind, let me know. So there you go.
Yeah.
Like Megan, who questions themselves and wants to feel supported and not scared, I immediately had someone come in and say, if you need any assistance, let me know, let me know. And that took off all of this pressure that I would have normally felt to not follow through on something so big and scary. And then lo and behold, Reiki led us to the point where I said to Linda, do you, because initially it was like, I definitely want to have you on the show. I want you on the show a
Yeah.
lot. And Linda was like, anytime, just let me know. Then I was like, you know what? I think we're supposed to do this together. And Linda was like, I've just been waiting for you to ask. Because you had
Yeah.
already received guidance that, or knew that we
Yeah.
were going to do this together.
Yeah.
And
I heard the
that's such a cool way Reiki did this for us within a span of 2 months' time.
Yeah, I remember I heard the words co-host when I thought about the podcast, and I knew they meant me, but I didn't want to barge in on your project because Megan was already starting to get organized and had lots of ideas on which people they would want to interview and the topics that they wanted to talk about with their interview
Right.
partners and everything, and I didn't want to barge in and intrude on your creation. So I was
And then
like,
I
if
knew.
it's meant to be, then,
Yeah.
like have Megan come up to me and then I will share that, okay, I got some guidance about that.
Hey, by the way, that's a wonderful thing that I've learned walking an intuitive path and always following my intuition. Sometimes we have intuitive guidance come to us, but it involves other people. And so, a really nice way to handle this ethically, because of course, we're co creating with everyone that we're doing this dance with in life, exactly like what Linda just said. Say to the universe, if I'm supposed to do this podcast with Megan, have them come to me and say something to me about it. I do that a lot. If I get a knowing about someone and something going on in their life, I'll say that person needs to bring this topic up with me. And I know that's an entry point for me to talk about that with them. Let's move
I would
forward
say,
talking a little bit more about Reiki because everything we're discussing, for me, Reiki has just like infused more juice into all of the things that we're talking about. It's like Reiki has just cleared such a path for me to be able to move forward with my intuitive life. So,
to,
do you want to talk a bit
yeah.
about the way that Reiki's changed your movement in the world, like how you move and express yourself in the world?
Yeah, let's take a very practical example. We can still stick to the topic of the podcast. You know, at that point, I had already been doing my work very publicly with my YouTube channel, putting myself out there with the tarot readings, with Reiki videos, seeing clients at that point. So when Megan decided that, okay, now it's the time to start recording, etc., there were a lot of fears coming up about being seen, and I
Mm.
had moved through many different waves of this fear of being seen that have even crippled me to some degree from sharing. It's something that I talked about in earlier episodes, and I think at some point we will revisit the topic of the fear of being seen as a standalone episode and share ways in which we moved through that. But, when these topics arise, Reiki is the healing tool there to dissolve these fears and move through the healing that is necessary in order to commit and to take the next steps. So that's why we say that Reiki is infused into everything that we do, and why Megan just said that it's the juice that allows more energy to flow into specific projects and putting us more out there. It's the it's I'm looking for a bit of a visual to give you. It's kind of like the network that's behind the scenes that you, as you're listening to us and watching us, you cannot see, but it is
Mm.
the inner network that is connecting us with ourselves, our higher selves, with the universe, allowing us to channel more of the ideas. And it's also the energy that helps us move through any obstacles that are along the way, which speeds up the process with which we can show up for this work. The amounts of clients that I can take more clients because I got Reiki, because it's a self-nurturing tool. I give myself a session, and I feel nourished and nurtured afterwards, like my body feels refreshed. So there are so many different ways in which Reiki is this invisible behind the scene network that I feel like lifts me up to create in all the different ways that I feel called to create. Also in terms of my family and helping out my parents who are experiencing some health events and have experienced some health events. This all of these things are quite draining, and
Mm.
having this network, this support net, almost like supportive net underneath me, is really what helps me move the way that I do. And this is true for everything.
Yes, I can confirm that. And, like you said, me speaking at the beginning resonated with how you felt, but you hadn't thought about it before. I never really thought about it that way. While you were speaking, I was like, yeah, yeah, that's right. It was a beautiful metaphor, kind of like we're working on a movie set of life, and then suddenly all of these other people appear behind the scenes to like make things happen that we don't have to
Yeah,
then be like, okay, hold on a second, and I'm going to run and go like work the lights. Suddenly there is someone
yeah,
working the lights, and it just
yeah.
like creates an efficiency. I remember our teacher Romana saying that Reiki is like a personal assistant. So like Reiki
Mm,
stepped in a way that allowed her to better understand how to, like you said, manage her time or schedule her clients or make changes with her business. And I remember sitting in Reiki 1 with her and being like, wow, you know, not
mm,
even believing that I could be so fortunate to have an experience like that. But sure enough, the more you commit to Reiki, the more you benefit from it. And it is, Linda said this, it's incredible how giving yourself Reiki treatments and following through on the healing that's presenting itself shown to you by Reiki, it has improved like my home life, like the dynamic of just me and my family at home together, without giving Reiki treatments to my family in the period of time that I was just giving treatments to myself. I could tell that it was affecting my home life positively. And then fast forward, I was having like kind of a strain in interpersonal relationships outside of my immediate family, with people who I did not want to break ties with people who I love and really wanted to be committed to. And yeah, lo and behold, the work that I was doing with Reiki over 6 months, I slowly started seeing the benefits. Like the people that I was having strain with, suddenly they were interacting with me differently. And it was because I was healing things in myself that probably wasn't triggering them more. Or, again, it's a delicate dance. It was just mind blowing, really, for me to experience that. The visual I had when you were talking about having people behind the scenes assisting us, I
mm,
like that better. But the visual I had was I was in an ocean And I am a good swimmer. Like I was able to stay in the ocean and manage everything, but if a wave comes, like pulls you under, my visual was Reiki was then a boat. It was like instead of me swimming alone in the water, I was put inside of a boat and there was a boat there.
I see actually a visual of an oracle card that I have. Do you mind if I grab it real
Yeah.
quick?
Yeah,
Okay.
go for it. Ooh, I'm excited.
Okay,
love
let
it.
me open it up. I need to look for it, but when I spoke about the net. Oh, see, this is the third card. This I'm gonna show it to you, and I'm also gonna describe it because some of you are listening. It's from the Nature's Whispers Oracle deck by Angela Hartfield with artwork from Josephine Wall. Number 22, master number, Leap of Faith. And we see basically a fairy that is walking on a slack line out of, the, like what's it called?
A tightrope?
Spin.
Sorry.
Thank you. Like a tightrope, but from a spider's net, and underneath it is a spider net as a safety net. And you see them walking, and that was the visual that
That's gorgeous.
I just saw. Yeah.
Wow.
If you are listening right now and you're curious and you want to see it for yourself because it's really beautiful, I'm gonna put it in the description box down below. Like I'm gonna link the YouTube video, and I'm also gonna give you a timestamp so that you can find it easily. That's what I'm gonna do. So you can have a look at it. But that's the visual that I just saw when I looked at this.
That
Do
is
you want me
exactly
to
what
look
it's
at?
like to walk life with Reiki on your side.
Do you want me to look at what's written in there?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so let me show you the cards again. I might as well as I read this. Number 22, Leap of Faith. See this as a chance to create something wonderful. You are in a transition period where you need to draw on your faith, intuition, and knowledge and take the leap. You will not fail. You have a safety net of support in place. You will overcome your fear and find a beautiful outcome is on the horizon. This leap of faith is the best course of action at this time. If you do make a mistake, you have the ability to try again and learn from what did not work the first time. All signs indicate that if you just trust, you will succeed. Jump headfirst into the void of the unknown. Even if you eventually fall, for a while you will soar. So that's the message that Reiki wanted to bring through.
Yeah, it made me feel emotional when you were reading that. That's amazing. Thank you, Reiki.
I feel like that's the biggest part. We already touched on this, is the topic of trust. Trusting the nudges that come to you and having the courage to follow them before you can place the full picture together. You only get a little puzzle piece, and then you start moving in that direction, and slowly the picture starts to form as you move forward. And Reiki is an incredible guide, because again, like whatever kind of obstacle might come up, like the fear of being seen that Megan experienced, but also that I experienced. I mean, we shared some past life stories as well in a couple of episodes back. All of these are ways, or little, I don't even want to call them obstacles. They're like little islands on this journey, if you will, on the side of the road that we need to move through in order to unlock the next part of the journey, or the next part of the road.
Right.
Connecting with past life gifts, things that we've mastered and learned before, working through karma, and Reiki is this, like this support system that allows us to heal that and to move the way in which we want to move and go where we want to go.
Right. It's strengthening muscles that we need to strengthen to do the work that we're going to do or building resilience to cope with the challenges ahead. And really, again, this feeling of life being a struggle, because life is challenging. Like living on Earth and being a human is not easy. It's tough. And Reiki doesn't make that go away. What it does is it changes one's entire attitude about it. And I think for me, my team and Reiki were sending me a message of faith. I started the year of 2023. So last year, at the beginning of the year, I started 2023. The word that I chose for the year was hope. And then in July, I did Reiki 1. And in November, I did, in July, I did Reiki 1. In September, I did Reiki 2. And in November, I did my quantum hypnosis session where I tapped into my higher self, and my higher self was coming through to share lots of different information with me. And one thing that my higher self came through to confirm, because that very day, or maybe the week leading up to that session, I suddenly got all of these signs related to faith. And my team and Reiki were saying, it's not about hope. It's not about optimism. It's about faith. It's about knowing in yourself. Yeah. That everything we're doing is right, that it is all divinely orchestrated, and that having quote unquote bad things or bad people show up in your life doesn't mean anything. That's not an indication that we got something wrong. So I had this really strong message come through to me. And I know that Reiki was a really big part of shifting from hope to faith, if that makes sense.
Mm.
That's a major way that I've changed the way that I move through the world. And for
Yeah,
me, I thought my issue was trusting. I always thought that the trust I had with myself was really, really strong and unwavering. And I thought maybe I was going to have to work more on trusting others or trusting the external. And it turned out that Reiki helped me see all the ways in which I didn't trust myself enough to take these leaps of faith over and over again. Yeah. Would you like to speak to anything that Reiki showed you that was a complete surprise, something that I had a few things. That's one example. I thought that my trust in myself, I also thought that my confidence was unwavering. When I said I was going to do this podcast, I was like, oh, I have it in me. This is not going to be an issue. Of course, there is like nerves ahead of recording something or performing. I know that, but I can handle this. I was shocked to see all of this come up that Linda's referring to, this shadow work that I needed to do related to fear of being seen, fear of being heard, specifically fear of me coming out of the psychic closet and speaking my truth about my psychic self. That shocked me because I had a whole story invented about who I was. And Reiki was like, well, there's a reason why you've been telling yourself these things, Megan. That's because it's been protecting you. But now you're strong enough to start dismantling that a little bit and building up a real foundation.
I'm sitting here and smiling because I have so many examples
So
of
it's hard
this.
to choose one.
It's hard to choose one because my life before Reiki, before I learned Reiki, and after Reiki looked completely different. Um, I am completely different, I would say. And when I say I'm completely different, it's like I allow myself to be myself now. Whereas before I had a lot of like barriers up and a lot of facades going on, a lot of stories I told myself about my role in relationships, particularly, and the kind of friends that I had, the kind of life that I needed to live, I guess.
Mm.
Although I was always a bit more on the outside of that, but feeling inadequate that it didn't fit in there. I think that's the best way to describe that. And when I look back at my life so far in general, there are two very distinct. Actually, now I'm in the third distinct phase of my life. And each of this was like a huge shift with like change in job, change in career, change in direction. And for the longest time, I didn't understand why. And now all of these little gifts and skills that I learned along the way are coming together and culminating into what I'm creating now and how I'm working now. And it makes sense that I needed to go through all of these things first in order to be me and the way that I am now and create in the way that I create. Um, To give you another example on the topic of relationships, I underwent a big shift in social circle
Mm.
in the last 2 years, where basically my entire friend group, my entire like social circle broke away because there was a distinct I didn't leave Berlin in peace, let me put it like this. I spoke that I lived there for 8 years, and I knew when I needed to leave, but I didn't heed the call. Okay, I didn't heed the call. I thought I needed to be there for a bit longer. And I distinctly remember feeling like I had something else to do, and I learned Reiki level 1. And I remember coming back home and putting my bike up in my entryway, like putting it in there. And I remember placing my bike, leaning it against the wall and thinking, I've done everything I need to do now in Berlin. I can leave. And then I didn't leave.
Oh,
I didn't
interesting.
leave because I mean, moving is expensive. I knew where I wanted to go, but I wasn't ready for it yet, financially speaking. There was some kind of transition period in between, and I was very fuzzy on all of that. And
Mm.
I knew that I wanted to work as a Reiki practitioner very early on. We can talk about that a bit more in a moment. And things were not coming together for me in the way that I hoped. So I was like, let me take a job in between while I sign up for my company and register all of that to just make a bit of money and have something off to the side for now, so I can create more resources to move, which of course is a very 3D earth bound kind of thinking that
Yeah.
you need to push forward in that particular
Yeah.
way.
Very ego
Um,
driven. Mhm.
yeah, exactly. Like, this is
Yeah.
how I learned it. This is how I'm gonna do it. And
Right.
none of this worked because it was a clear distinction point of like, no, you need to follow your intuition entirely. And because I didn't take that call, of course, I needed to leave and I needed to move. So the universe made it happen in a very unpleasant way for me.
Hmm.
And as a result of that, like, my entire friendship circle basically fell away for one way or one reason or another. And I noticed the very early beginnings through Reiki, actually, because my best friend at the time, well, I had been friends with for more than 10 years at that point, mind you. Um, I remember telling her I was so excited I got my first Reiki client. So I basically wanted to practice on strangers. I wanted to practice Reiki on strangers that I didn't know anything about to see what my intuition would pick up. And I posted some free Reiki sessions in an app called Lex. It's a queer app where you can, I mean, it's a dating app, but you can also just meet friends there to do several things, and together, if you want to go somewhere, you want to go to a bar, whatever you can think of, you can find your people there if you're queer. And I posted that I was offering like 3 free sessions there, and I found people, of course, wanted to have a free Reiki session, and they came. But through that, someone came up to me and said, "Hey, I want to gift someone a Reiki session because Christmas was coming up. I want to gift someone a Reiki session. Are you available to do that?" And I was like, "Oh, my first client. Fuck yeah." And I
Exciting.
was so excited about
Yeah.
it. And I remember telling my friend about it, and it was via text message. And I remember she never clapped for me. She was never excited. She basically ignored it and moved on. And I remember thinking for the first time, being like, something is very wrong here.
Yeah. Red
Like,
flag.
something is very, very off, like energy wise. Something is not right at all.
Yeah.
And it continued because she also didn't want to have a Reiki treatment from me, which, is fine. I'm not saying that all of my friends get one or need to get one. It was just the way in which, in which, like, it wasn't even said, it was what I picked up intuitively from that conversation and the response to it, where I was like, there is a mismatch here. Like, something
Yep.
is not right.
Yep.
And it was coming through it this way, and I saw the ways in which um, Reiki just highlighted these things for me with my interpersonal relationships. Another example I could give you was, I shared that in the last episode a little bit, that the first time that I stepped into the Reiki group class, I held back and I didn't share my entire experience about how I came to Reiki. If you're curious about that, that's in the last episode. And I didn't share the full story because I was like, that sounds so cuckoo. Like, I don't know these people. I need to lean back and check the vibe first to see what I can share and what I can't share. And then lo and
Mm,
behold, of course, we all shared. And I realized that, okay, all of these are sensitive people, have to some differing degree some kind of like extrasensory perception. And even though we came from very different backgrounds and had different experiences, there were a lot of commonalities shared. And it was a very warm, friendly, and welcoming open space.
mm.
And it made me feel so incredibly lonely because I realized how disconnected I felt from the people in my life because I couldn't be myself there at all. At least not that part of me. I wasn't comfortable. After that, I started to share a little bit more with my friends, and I very quickly realized while a lot of them are open to it and maybe had one or two experiences of their own, it wasn't a conversation like I can have with Megan, let's say, which is like a whole
Mm.
nother level.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, it was a not an exchange; it was a sharing. There was an openness, a willingness to listen, which is beautiful, and I'm grateful that they have that or that they had that. But it wasn't fulfilling the need that I had to dive deeper into all of these topics. And that was again highlighted for me through Reiki because I started being more comfortable with that psychic side of myself and sharing that with
Mm.
people. And again, like the circle broke away, and now all of the people that are coming into my life are, guess what? They're my kind of people. They're the
Yeah,
kind of people that I can sit down and talk about these things for a week straight if we would be able to do that, you know?
I
And it's really
wish.
beautiful the ways in which, exactly, I mean, you, for example, but the ways in which this is restructured and guided through Reiki. I feel like that
Just
was a
like
long
it's such
story.
a think about how gentle it is for Reiki to say, "Here, I'm gonna set you in a space with a whole bunch of other people where you feel that this is safe and supportive and people really relate and have their own stories." And then as a result, like the residual effect is to just feel what's missing in your current relationships. That's such a
Yeah.
gentle way to
I
show
mean, yeah,
you.
but I was devastated. Oh, I
Of
was so
course.
sad.
And that's my point. If it had been done any differently, it would have been too harsh, right? Because
Yeah.
look, Linda's talking about two serious changes that were being ushered their way: a move and ending relationships, friendships with people who, we love and trust. Those are major things to say goodbye to.
Yeah.
Those
And
are major things to do.
I lived there for 8 years. So most of these people I knew for 8 years
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah, that's like a whole chapter of someone's life.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. But, I've heard this said by my teacher, our teacher, Romana. I've heard it said by other people who practice Reiki. When we're committing to Reiki, if we do want to move forward, if we want to make this commitment, if we want to make this our work, if that's what we're feeling called to, then it's an all-in process. Like Reiki shows us, okay, we're going to have to move. And then we have to say yes, right?
Yeah.
So that's been, I think, the big takeaway for Linda and me on our journeys. It is a reoccurring commitment. It's like we recommit in all the ways that Reiki is presenting something new to us. We recommit by saying, yes, yes, I'm going to do that. Yes, I'm going to follow through on that. And I don't know, hot tip from me, I guess. I feel like I had a machete and I was just like, yes, yes, yes. Like I just said yes to everything. I'm surprised I did, but I did. And Reiki was like, all right, let's go. And I was like on a fishing line, right? And Reiki was like, come on, come on.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, 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 yes. It was amazing. I
Yeah, I
love
mean,
that. It
yeah.
was
I mean,
fun.
agreed. It was just, it felt, and it was a bit painful, the circumstances, of course, but it was easy to say yes because my entire body responded so positively to every aspect of this practice and doing this work that it was an easy decision to make. The first time that I gave a Reiki session to a stranger. Like I said, I had some queer people coming into my home and gave them Reiki treatments, etc. And I felt very comfortable doing that as well because I knew that I was guided towards that. So I trusted the people that would be drawn to me for this experience in that moment. I knew I would be safe. I knew I would be okay. And that very first Reiki treatment that I gave to a complete stranger that I didn't see in the course before, and we had a conversation for 2 days. I didn't know them. I basically said, "Here's my address. Bring this and this. Get comfortable clothing. Come in. Ring my doorbell. That's that. Like ring it. That's it." My entire body responded to that in such a beautiful way that it was a full body yes. And as I was doing the session, I got more information about the client. My intuition started to kick in and connect. Um, there were very early on for me even points where I could hear the spirit guides of the people that I was working with, because
Amazing.
that's the kind of work and ability that I had beforehand,
Mm.
cultivated through Reiki, etc., being clairaudient. So very early on,
Mm.
these things connected in a very powerful way for me, and I knew I wanted to continue that. When
Amazing.
I started learning Reiki, even though in my initial dream that I shared in last week's episode, I heard Reiki Master playing over and over in my head. I wasn't sure I was going to go through to the Reiki Master at that point.
Mm.
But with level one and the way that it presented itself, and me learning how unique my intuition ties into that, because our Reiki teacher, Ramana, has the Reiki shares, or has this beautiful tradition of giving Reiki shares in Berlin, where lots of Reiki practitioners can come together for an evening or a couple of hours, and we sit down, we share our experiences. It's a very safe space, always lovely people there, very gentle energy, warm, welcoming, loving, and then we give each other a Reiki treatment, and then we talk about our experiences during that Reiki treatment. And I went to a few of these and shared a few of my experiences very in the beginning, when before you give the treatments and you sit down and you have a conversation with everybody, and it's like, okay, does someone have an experience that you want to share or have some feedback on? And I started sharing some feedback or an experience that I had. And I remember people sitting next to me and being like, yeah, I've never experienced that. And they're like, you're level one? I said, yeah. Well, I mean, usually about that connection, you learn that with level three. And me being like, oh, okay, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. It's happening. And I just basically got this very early on feedback that it was important for me to keep going. And it felt so good that I wanted to keep going. And so I did. But again, I took my time. It took me 2 years to move through.
It's not even a feeling of that it's not like I didn't feel like, oh wow, I'm moving fast, or I'm moving slowly. It's like Reiki just pulls you through in the timing that's right for you. And
Yeah.
I just want to say something. There's 9 years between Linda's age and my age. I'm 9 years older than Linda. So
Yeah.
I have experienced in the time that we've been working together and sharing together and building a friendship together. I've experienced, oh, it's been so interesting. The ego starts putting up numbers, right? Like, well, Linda's 33 and you're 42. And, Megan, you haven't even registered your business yet. And you're not, like the ego says a lot of those kinds of things. But Reiki just dissolves all of that. Anytime a thought like that pops up, Reiki just dissolves it all, because I am so comfortable with the pace of how I'm moving and what works for
Mm.
me. So like Linda saying, I took my time and it took me 2 years. There are people who I think sit with Reiki 1 for years.
Yeah.
I mentioned in the last episode, I think the last episode, I was talking with someone who said to me, oh, you're a Reiki master? I learned Reiki 1, and I could tell they suddenly started thinking about it again. And I think me just mentioning it to them sparked something in them. And I have a real suspicion that they're going to look into moving further with Reiki now. And so what I want to say is, of course, this journey for that person could be like 7 years, Reiki 1, Reiki 2, and it's perfect for them.
Yeah.
And I know that's a message that Linda and I keep driving home about, like, this intuitive journey overall. And Linda, you touched on a couple of things that we wanted to talk about. So let's keep going with that. The first is community and how important community is in this work, finding the right community and the right people. I want to add a couple of things, and then you can share anything else that you want to share. I'm so happy that Linda brought up Reiki shares, and I encourage anyone who's learned Reiki but not connecting with anyone in the Reiki world and wanting to. I am aware that there's a lot of things like this out there. And I know if anyone's watching from the US, I'm American and I've lived here in Germany now for 19 years. So I'm really separated from America in the everyday life. I've heard from some people in the US that metaphysical stores, like places where you might buy crystals or where they offer metaphysical courses or maybe readings, that can be a good place to go to kind of build community, that there might be course offerings, even some free things. So I would encourage anyone in the US to go check stuff like that out. If you're living in a place, I don't know if the UK is like that. Sometimes there are similarities between the way American life works and the way that life works in the UK. So maybe people in the UK would say like, oh yeah, we have metaphysical stores like that here. I know Berlin could be something like that. Frankfurt is not at all. But, think about where you live. Think about the ways that you might want to reach out to others to connect with Reiki. I've never done a Reiki share. I'm considering starting Reiki shares in Frankfurt. If anyone is watching or listening and is interested in Reiki shares, we're going to throw our information down anyway, and my email address will be there. So please reach out to me if you're interested in Reiki shares. I would love to do something like that, and we can put that together, or I'm happy to put something together for us. Attending group courses, so choosing to learn Reiki and then choosing to do a group course in person to get the feel, the felt community of sitting together with people. And I believe, Reiki chooses our teacher for us. I believe Reiki chooses the other students that we work together with. So if anyone has a strong sense, I want to learn Reiki in a group, then put that intention out there. Please send me the best people for me to learn Reiki together with, and Reiki will do that for you.
Yeah.
Anything else related to just building community? Like, look, the WhatsApp group
Well,
that Romana has is the way that Linda and I met each other. Yeah.
yeah.
Reiki connected us through Romana, through this WhatsApp group where we immediately jumped over to our own message chat, and we were like on a video call right away. And we were like, what? You're experiencing that too? Oh my gosh, tell me more. Like, we just couldn't believe how in sync what we were dealing with was between the two of us. And I remember Linda talking about things and me being like, oh, I just researched that, and like sending you links to stuff like, oh, I just read about
Yeah.
that. Like, and Reiki was like, all right, you two go. And we were just like, and this and that and this and that. So yeah, follow your intuition with people you want to talk to. And I'm
Yeah.
done. You go.
Yeah. I'm gonna mention that starting at level 2, I'm also creating a WhatsApp group for people, or Telegram. I haven't decided which one yet. But that's something that I want to continue. And then because I have people from all over the world, easily, I'm happy to create virtual Reiki shares through that. But I don't want to open it to all of the public, because I would like to know the people that come in for that, at least.
I'd be
At
really
least right now.
excited to join in that too,
Yeah, I mean, you're welcome.
or contribute.
We
Yeah.
can. I feel like when we do a Reiki share, we can extend it to maybe some of your students as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not important for this podcast right now.
Ideas.
It's really not. Yeah, but I think that's a good call. And just starting with your Reiki teacher would be my first instinct to start. Ask them if they have something, or ask them if maybe if you want to meet some people, if they're comfortable to perhaps send out a group email to their last few students or something, and asking if someone is interested in connecting with you, having a call, setting it up. You can reach out. I feel like that's the easiest way to reach other Reiki practitioners who also come from a similar lineage as you, have like similar background and knowledge in terms of conducting sessions as you as well. I think that's the first and most important part there.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
And I am
go ahead.
still friends also with one person from my Reiki 1 course. Because like Megan and I, we didn't learn it together,
Right.
but I'm still friends with one of the people. And afterwards, directly after the course, there was like we were a bit more connected, and then people went off in their own journeys. But I'm still friends with one of them, so that was a good call for me. And I mean, doing this work in a more public manner, I'm meeting so many lovely people now that are coming into my circle and that I'm collaborating with, but also that have become true friends of mine. It's flowing. That's what I can tell you. I tell you, it's flowing, but it's also flowing because I'm allowing myself to be seen. I'm allowing myself to be out there. I'm allowing people to see who I really am. And then if they connect with that energy, and if I connect with theirs, it's also important. That's just a two-way street, because when you are publicly facing, there are a lot of people that might feel connected to you, or feel connected to me, or feel connected to Megan, that we don't know. So sometimes it can be a bit one-sided, I would say.
Mm.
So it needs to be a two-way street. If I also feel connected with them in that particular way, then we can collaborate, do something together, and usually things grow from there if there's something that needs to grow.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Want to talk a little bit more about our intuition telling us when to learn like the next level of Reiki?
Yeah. I'm
You've you've
taking a
you
deep
you
breath
touched
here
on that a
because
bit. Go ahead.
yeah, I'm taking a deep breath here because I've been thinking about between like level 1 and level 2.
Mm.
I knew I wanted to learn how to do the distance stuff. That was the main thing for me. I needed to learn how to do the distance stuff also from a business perspective, because again, like I left Berlin, I am still living in this transitionary space, I would say, transitionary area, but I know where it's going next, and I know when I'm moving again, and like, when this is coming, I know all of that. And I knew I needed to create my business a bit more online to have a bigger reach, for one thing, and also because I knew I wanted to move again. So, from a very practical standpoint, creating an online business that would at some point eventually will have a physical space again, because I love that physical practice and that aspect of it, um, was my priority. So I know that was needed to learn level 2. So after like everything crumbled and I moved, for better or for worse, I needed a little bit of time to adjust and a little bit of time to sort of take care of my energy before I felt ready to take on the next journey. And then I learned level 2. And then I've taken a long time before I learned level 3. And it I learned level 3. Basically, a student appeared that wanted to learn from me, and I kind of knew I was ready, but I wasn't fully, ego Linda wasn't fully ready to take that step. And then everything kind of came together with so many different synchronicities and like mystical experiences along the way that were like, at some point, my guides at the very end said, "Are you ready now to learn level 3?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I got it. I got it. I'll do it. I'll do it." And then it started to grow from there. How was it for you?
Yeah. So I learned Reiki level 1, and I didn't even know what Reiki was until I started using it in the class. And when the class was finished, it's 2 days, I was just like, "Wait, this is it?" Like, now I leave? I was so ready to do level 2, like, on the second day of the Reiki level 1. Now I'm not I wasn't ready energetically, but I
Yeah,
knew.
you
Yeah.
wanted to.
And I contacted Romana immediately and said, "Look, what's the earliest I can do this? Because I know, like, I have intuitive guidance. I should be doing this as soon as it's time." So I did my 21-day self-commitment, and I think a couple of weeks later, I did Reiki level 2. Now, the interesting thing when I learned Reiki level 2 it was like Romana was teaching me everything in Reiki too. And I was like, oh, you can do that with Reiki? Yeah. It was like all of these things. I was sitting, waiting with bated breath to know how to do things. Example, crossing ghosts over, or
Yeah.
earthbound spirits is how I refer to them.
Yeah.
I mentioned in the last episode, I was really experiencing a lot of noise in my home, especially at night in my bed. I wasn't really seeing things. I've had those experiences before, but it was getting kind of noisy and I didn't like it. And I did feel that there was a lot going on that was also preventing my oldest kid from sleeping as deeply as they could. Like, and anything that starts messing with my kid, I'm like, all right, we're done. This is over. Yeah. So my mama bear came out a little bit, which is probably why I followed through on it, because I'm a big scaredy cat at heart. And I've mentioned that before. I'm also a person that likes to avoid things at all costs. I've mentioned that today. But then once I started realizing that my oldest was not sleeping very well, I was like, all right. I started researching everything I could about ghosts, realized Reiki could be it. And then when I started learning Reiki level 2 and understanding, oh, that's how I could do this with Reiki, it was all kind of a mystery to me. And then I started learning Reiki 2, and it was like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was like, as I was learning Reiki, I thought like, yes, that is what I've always needed. It was almost like there was another Megan who knew that before, and I was remembering it again. It felt so familiar and so right. And then I was sure that I wouldn't learn Reiki level 3. I did not feel called to be a teacher of Reiki. It didn't seem like something that resonated with me. And there was the wealth of possibility that came through from Reiki 2 for me. I just wanted to live inside of it. And that phase for 4 months or so was even physically very uncomfortable and kind of a struggle. Like I had a lot of third eye things going on, which was giving me headaches. I also, when my third eye is active, when I close my eyes, I see it looks like there's a very faint strobe light outside of my eyes. So I lived in like 6 or 7 weeks of experiencing things like that after learning Reiki level 2, which is individual to me, and I don't want to put anyone off from learning Reiki. And I knew it was because there were things opening up in me. I was really going from walking my spiritual journey to sprinting my spiritual journey the minute I learned Reiki 2. And I don't think that it would have been easy for me to continue if I hadn't met Linda. I have super supportive friends, like super duper supportive friends who I can talk all psychic stuff with. They are incredible. But I met Linda, and Linda was like, oh, yeah, I'm interested in that same thing. I want the answer to that same question. I've been figuring this out, or let's figure this out together. And I knew I could just keep sprinting. I felt like, okay, I'm just going to keep going at this pace. I have someone else with me. I feel a little crazy. I feel like this is kind of insane because, spoiler alert, all of this stuff that Linda and I were experiencing, this was also their journey after Reiki 2. They were, rounding their corner to come to master level. I didn't know I was going to master level. I thought I was going to Ghost Town. I thought I was like earthbound, destination earthbounds, because that's what everything was leading me and Linda to.
I
And
didn't know about that, guys. I didn't know about that, okay? I did not know about that this is where that one was gonna go.
I recently was on a flight alone and went back through our WhatsApp chain, message chain, text chain from all those months, right? We're talking a year. And read through the evolution of us talking. And it was fucking wild to see the ways in which I actually didn't think I was going to do any of that work, but Linda was bringing that up as something that they wanted to get into for different reasons, just kind of like on the side. And I was like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, here's a book, here's a link. I was like sending
Mhm.
all this information. I had all of this information. And I didn't realize that meant that I was going to be doing this work. I was like, oh yeah, I can help. Here, you can read about that. Like I was pretending like this had nothing to do with me. And then it really broke open for both of us because we started practicing this work. We started informing ourselves through people that worked with Reiki in this capacity to cross spirits over. And I was petrified and did not feel that I was at all competent enough to do this. And at one point, because of Linda, I felt confident enough and I started doing it. And that really like lit a fire. And what I want to say about all of this is our Reiki 2, post Reiki 2 journey was so condensed and so like densely filled with information and learning. Like the two of us were going through different psychic upgrades. It was like all of these cycles that we were going through. There was no time for us to think about master level. Like
No.
that's not where our brain, we were like, where is this going?
Yeah.
And we weren't thinking like this is going to master level. We were just like, where is this going? This is like work that we're going to do, which is the next episode, by the way. I don't want to go too
Yeah.
far down the road of specifics of this practice, you know, working with spirits but that's what Reiki 2 did for me. And I did not think that's where it was going.
So maybe I want to jump in here a little bit and talk a little bit about the psychic abilities opening up.
Yeah,
I
let's
was
do that.
quite open going into all of this work, right? I said I did channeling work beforehand. I was clairaudient, clearly could hear my guides and sometimes other entities around. I could sometimes see them, etc. So my upgrades between the levels, I did during the 21 days self cleanse. I did experience some like third eye headaches here and there, sometimes even for 2 3 days, where I was more sensitive to the light. Where when I went outside, I wore sunglasses, for example, but I didn't have like Megan shared, like the strobe light effect or stuff like this. For me, it was much more calm because I was doing this work more beforehand already. So I was quite open on that front. I had like limiting beliefs coming up and all of that other stuff coming up to the surface, like there is no tomorrow. So that was challenging in its own right. But there was a period of my life, I talked about this, that in 2020 I had the first entity encounter, I should say, that I cleansed out with sage. The story is in my episode about my intuition, I believe. I'm going to link it down below for you. And then the entity front was relatively quiet for me for a few years. After I learned the protection methods, the first ones that I used, I was very like centered and safe, and I didn't really have the ghosts popping in or any other kind of entities. I didn't really have those kinds of encounters anymore. Very few, far in between. Um, uh, very very far. Yeah, yeah, and after I moved to this transition period, to this transition spot where I'm in right now, I started learning level 2. What came up for me were past lives as an alien, so off planet lives, being a star seed. That topic arose for me, and that's how I started moving into the direction of entity work. I started learning how to use Reiki intuitively to give sessions to past life things, past life issues, and I gave a reading, a tarot reading to someone, and that was the first time that an entity showed up again in my house when I did the reading. And it was like the entire, I'm not going to talk about it a lot, but the entire circumstances of the readings and the energy that I was reading for this reading, um, everything about this was so wild, and they were present in my room, and I needed to kick them out. I've had experiences coming up, being woken up in the middle of the night and having like ghosts in my house, having ghosts in my room, communicating with me, talking to me. I had intuitive pulls to to go to the cemetery for whatever reason and like do something there, and feeling that pull for weeks, and like anyone would, ignoring the shit out of that for weeks because I was like, I know what this means and I'm not gonna go there. And then at some point,
I
being
remember
so
that.
I remember it was a Sunday and I cycled. I went for a little, just to cycle around a bit the nature. And when I came back again, upon like entering the village, like feeling the pull to the cemetery and being like, nope, that's not for me. Just completely ignoring it and cycling home and wanting to lock up my bike and standing there and feeling the pull and being like, oh my God, fuck it. Okay, let's go. Let's just find out whatever this is. And I went. And that was the first time I did a mass clearing on that cemetery. After I learned that it's really, really old and has been here for more than 1,000 years, because it's a very old settlement that I live in. And like all of these things were coming up right, left, and center, and like learning how to use Reiki to cross over entities. Then it shifted into learning how the energies and entities attach themselves to people, how it looks like, because alongside that, you need to know that the material is always worked through us. So anytime there is some kind of upgrade in skill level, it's because we've developed that skill through ourselves first. So many sessions have been spent, both for Megan and I, on working on our own energy fields and learning what is going on there, what is attached, what is happening, how does all of this affect us, how does it work, how does it feel when it's no longer there, how does it feel when it's there, all of these things. And I remember doing one session on myself where I had an entity attached to my third eye that was influencing my ability to see. And I considered myself being more clairsentient and clairaudient than clairvoyant beforehand. And then I did that releasement session, and all of a sudden, my third eye was like, hello, we're
Mm.
back online. And I could start to see so many more things that now I know I'm leading clairvoyant,
Mm.
clearly leading clairvoyant. And I would not have been able to reach, so to speak, reach that spot if I would not have gone through the Reiki journey of learning how to remove that. Because also to this day, I don't know a practitioner that works in that particular way. I've never met anybody who works in this specific way, because that's the beauty part, or the beautiful part about Reiki. It works with your intuitive senses in the way that you need to. It works directly with your extrasensory perception if it's needed, of course. It works with your extrasensory perception in such a way that you need it. So even if Megan and I give a session, the outcome will be the same, but the way in which we got there looks quite different because of our different abilities and perceptions. And throughout this journey, we would go through, and I think actually I'm going to stop talking about this here, and we're going to bring this to next episode,
Okay. Yeah, we want to
because
get into all the
I wanted
specifics
to
of
get
that
a bit
next time.
into how this developed. But let's move this to next week's episode.
Okay. Yeah, that's
So
good.
I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger there. Sorry about that.
Oh, but it'll be good. The next episode's going to be really
Oh my
good.
God, it's juicy.
Mm.
It's so juicy.
Yeah. We won't go into more specifics about the details of this aspect of our work. It's become our work. But it's very
Yeah.
important to say that in the time that Linda and I were learning all of this, we were learning it on ourselves. And it turned out that all the things that were going on with me, I'd share a story and Linda would be like, that's exactly what happened to me last night. Or they would share a story. And then the next day, I would have my own personal experience of learning how to do that
Of that.
myself. And as I
Yeah.
was doing it, I would think, that's what Linda was doing. So
Oh,
that was brilliant. It was
wild.
brilliant.
Yeah, synchronicity is crazy.
And
Never
the
experienced anything like that.
no, that was really, it blew my mind.
Yep.
It blew my mind. And then us as a yin yang. So Linda being, I know that clairsentience was a huge part of your psychic abilities and your strong set, and still is, but you being like leading claircognizant and clairaudient. I am
Clairvoyant.
clairaudient. I'm
Clairvoyant.
differently clairaudient than Linda is. But my leading abilities are claircognizance. That has always been the case. And I was clairvoyant for some time where I thought, oh, wow, if this grows, that will be a pretty strong skill of mine. Well, it turned out that my clear cognizance kind of dipped out, and I had this big explosion with my clairsentience. Linda and I
Mm-hmm.
both remember that. It would
Mm-hmm.
have terrified me. I might have seen a doctor if I hadn't been in touch with Linda, where they could kind of confirm that they've also had similar clairsentience experiences when theirs were opening up too. But I had a good
Yeah.
week where I was experiencing symptoms that were kind of freaking me out. And it turned out
Mm.
that that was my clairsentience just exploding. So the way that we do the work that we've been led to is led by our own psychic abilities. Reiki really opened up my clairsentience, and I'm still my clairvoyance is a big question mark to me, because I really have had spurts of my life where it's been very strong, but it's very inactive right now in terms of seeing.
Mm.
So we'll see.
Or we won't.
Or, or we won't see. So
I
we'll
mean, not
know.
all the psychic abilities are like we don't feel each of them as strongly as one another, and that's
Right.
okay. And you know, it might shift as well. We talked about this before, how sometimes when a psychic sense comes back online, the volume gets turned up to max so that you actually pay attention because it's a subtle sensation. And then once it has your attention and you start to understand what's actually happening, it goes more quiet again because now you're tuned into the subtle energies of it. So it's
Yeah.
easier for you to access it.
Yep. It's completely normal for anyone out there with Reiki or without Reiki to experience
Yeah.
ebbs and flows with all different types of psychic abilities, for things to
Yeah.
dip out and come back again. Please don't feel that that means that you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. For
And
example, my clairsentience is a bit more on the quiet side right now because of the environment that I'm in, and it's not supportive for me to have it be on full blast because it would be super overwhelming,
mm,
right? So right now this is a bit more muted,
yeah,
just to give you one example. But I know when I move again and I'm settled in, I know that it will shift again a bit. But I think clairvoyant leading will stay. A very strong feeling that this will stay. But yeah, it's shifting.
I will say that I just always thought that a strong psychic person um, is has a strong clairvoyance. That
Mm,
it was a misconception that I had,
yeah.
and I wanted to say that because I do feel like that is that kind of permeates the psychic and spiritual world out there. Um,
Yeah.
Not completely, but I think a lot of people who are successful psychic mediums, let's say, they're very clairvoyant. And I can understand why. Being able to talk about what you see feels very tangible. There's a lot of, we have a phrase in English, seeing is believing, right? There's a lot
Mm,
of obsession and preoccupation that we have with sight. So, as someone who is not clairvoyant, really, I'm really not clairvoyant now. Please, like, believe in other psychic abilities and allow them to be cultivated and lean into them. I am really proud of the work that I'm doing, and I feel really compelled by the work that I'm doing. And I just want to speak to that for anyone who's not clairvoyant. You might never be. It's totally okay, and you will have beautiful things to offer the world through your psychic abilities.
yeah, it's just about finding a way or tuning into the way that your intuition communicates with you. And
Right,
it doesn't matter which sense that is.
right. So that's kind of a message beyond Reiki. But I can say that Reiki was um, a really big part of that development in my psychic ability,
Yeah.
and I know that Linda feels the same. Um, let's move on to. I had a question about how Reiki nudges us when we are receiving guidance about committing to more inner work, but our ego is fighting it. And we live on Earth, people. We live on Earth, and we have lives that make us feel that we can't just, run forward with healing or inner work that's coming up for different reasons. It could be justified, it could be unjustified, it could be fear-based, whatever. But when Reiki shows me that there's something to be done, I never tried to convince myself that Reiki's wrong. I always know that Reiki is right, that it is the truth, let's say. And sometimes I still don't want to do it. So, Linda, do you want to start?
Oh, yeah, sure. She's handing over the ball because I'm experiencing resistance right
You talk
now.
about
Hello,
that?
it's me. It's me. We talked about it yesterday after we recorded. It's me. It's me. I'm resisting. I'm in resistance. Thank you. Thank you, Megan. Appreciate that.
I didn't mean to do it that way, but as I was asking you, I realized you can speak from
All right. Okay.
current circumstances.
There is I say but there are multiple past life experiences that I need to revisit connected to the topic of being in a leadership position. Again, topic of control coming up, and power, leadership, control, power. And I know that these lifetimes are connected more to shadows aspects of these three things that I just spoke of. So we're talking about bad kind of leadership, we're talking about misuse of power, we're talking about being overly controlling. And I was these embodied these three qualities in these past lifetimes to varying degrees. I already know that there is some kind of like when I say leadership position, I know I have like one lifetime that's more along like a royal line or something. I don't know if it was human or non-human. I haven't. See, this is the resistance. I haven't allowed myself to go to the Akashic records to look at that yet. But this is something that has been coming up to me in a Reiki session, and that has been confirmed from so many other sources, like so many other avenues in which this arose for me. To give you maybe an example, I did watch one pick a card tarot reading where that came up after the fact that I had that dream sequence when I gave myself Reiki. I drifted into a trance and I saw this topic, and all of a sudden, like Megan shared as well in a few of the episodes, like all of a sudden this topic was like popping up right, left, and center, right, left, and center. I would get videos recommended around this topic, and I never watch anything about this, So it's like randomly popping up. I see it when I'm out and about everywhere. I will have overhear people talking about like throwing these buzzwords in here and there, and I know that there's something going on. And then something really funny happened where I did a free birth chart reading on some website. I don't remember which website, but I just remembered that people were like, yeah, it's a good one. And I was curious, so I just chucked it in there. It was free. And I remember getting the report and feeling like I needed to read one specific area, and I read it. And of course, that was a major point that came up in this shorter birth chart reading, was like a very specific one connected to karmic ties in my lifetime, and that topic arose again, and I'm like, okay, I know I need to. I know I need to, and I know that I need to fully go into the lifetime. It's not enough for me to send Reiki just overall to the topic of control and leadership. I know intuitively that that's not enough. I know I'm being asked to go into the Akashic records to revisit the first lifetime. I feel like I need to do this at least like 20 times, maybe even shit, I just heard 50. Okay, I have 50.
Ooh,
Oh
ooh.
my god. Okay, but at least I have a
But at
number.
least you
Okay,
know.
like I'm a good little soldier when it comes to this. I got a lot of stamina. When I know it's 50, then I can sit down and I will do 50. That's okay.
Wow.
So, thank you for, because I've been asking for the number and I didn't get
It's
it. So
true.
now
Yesterday you
you're here
asked.
right now with me
It was
getting the number.
crickets.
So, I need to go there a couple of times to look and see into these lives, and then I will need to specifically give myself a Reiki session, or at least one or two Reiki sessions for that one lifetime. I will see what comes up there. I need to see which ties I have. I need to see which kind of attachments I might have connected to that lifetime, and I need to clear it out. And personally, it's coming up right now because I'm being asked to step into a bigger leadership role. So all of the shadow aspects need to be healed and integrated for me to
Yeah.
go where I need to go. Real life example, what's happening right now. I say I'm doing the first session today. Okay, I say it here. I'm doing the first session today, this
The
evening.
commitment is made.
Yeah, 50. I just made 50 commitments.
Amazing.
How about you?
What's the question?
Do you want to talk about the resistance that may have come up for you?
Yeah. Okay. Last week, when we were recording, the fourth time that we were recording our episode for protection, millionth
No, the
time we
third
were
time.
recording it.
Third time.
I know, I was exaggerating when I said fourth,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah.
Felt. We were having these horrible technical issues, and both of us knew that there was something going on, and both of us knew it wasn't outside interference. So Linda was just like, wait. All right, Megan, you want to look into this? And I was like, inside, I was like, no. But I was like, yes. And then Linda was like, is this me or is this Megan? And the answer was, it's Megan. And I already knew that it was me. And I was horrified. I was mortified. I was horrified that I was causing these issues. And I really could not for the life of me imagine why I would ever sabotage a recording session that we just wanted to get finished. And Linda so graciously said, let's pull cards. And we shifted our energy completely into discussing this. They shifted their energy completely into discussing this. I was
Yeah, I
like
did.
being pulled like a little child who wanted, a candy bar in a store. And the parent was like, no, we're going home and we're going to have, like a proper meal. And I was like, no. I was like wet noodling. Linda, their guides, my guides, everyone was just standing around me, looking at me like, all right, are you done with your tantrum? Can we move on here? So I just wanted to speak to the resistance. And this is so interesting because I knew that I needed to know what was coming up here. And my ego had such a strong reaction to that. And I really don't think that I've had such a strong ego reaction in maybe 10 months time. Like that really surprised me. When things like that happen, and I know it's a past life thing, it feels like it's not me and it is me. So I was even saying to Linda, like I was referring to other Megan. I just, for anyone who's
Yeah.
listening, did the air quotes. The other Megan who is sabotaging, because conscious Megan certainly would never have the audacity. I don't want to talk, on and on about it, but it was a past life, and it was a past life where it was manifesting itself in a way where I was vying for negative attention. And Linda did this incredible reading. Everything resonated. I was breaking down into like crying while Linda was doing the reading because they were saying something. The truth of it was so powerful. I was crying, just the layers of grief coming up even before I understood what it was all about. And then I knew that I needed to go in and do a Reiki session where I was attending to this specific life. And I think I ended up doing 3 full sessions. I do believe it was one of the major points of karma that I brought into my incarnation as Megan. And I think that it was always the plan that when I was capable enough in this lifetime that I would address that. And the thing that blows my mind is this is not the first life that has done this. I've had at least 3 other lives where I go into these lives, I'm given more information about them, and it's made clear to me that I had behaviors in my life as Megan that never made sense that came from these other lives. And it's so interesting, that moment of me resisting last week, because I know the end game is relief and truth and alignment with myself and not feeling like I'm 2 separate people. But I still had
Yeah.
this incredible moment of resistance. I think it's awesome that Linda got to witness that. Because a
It was
lot of
wild.
the past life stuff that we do separately. We don't do this work
Yeah.
together. I mean, it's our stuff. But Linda, you got to witness that. And I mean, you can confirm that was serious resistance.
Yeah, that was something else. I'm only laughing because
Yeah.
I remember you being like, no, I don't want to do this now, technically. But
Yeah.
me looking at you and being like, I am not picking up the recording again. We're doing this now. Like, you have two small kids. They're bringing it up now, like it's coming up now because now there's the time and the pocket of time where we can do this or where you can address this. So let's
Right.
do it now.
Right. And I was like, this is so unprofessional of me.
But you know what? The next day we recorded the episode. Finally, we recorded
We had to
the
re-record
second
it.
part of the protection episode.
Yeah.
So that was why it's in two parts and why we wear different clothes and look
Because of
differently
me.
because of that. Not because of you, because of that
Because of
arising.
that.
But we didn't have any technical issues since. Like they completely immediately after we did that, they vanished. And we're talking
Right.
about a few episodes where we had technical difficulties. Like we needed to re-record them because everything was
Yep.
like nothing was working basically.
I was fucking shit up, people. And I was and the minute it came to light, I was so embarrassed. I was so
Come
embarrassed.
on.
And I want to say
I
it's
know.
really interesting how our egos
I
react to
know.
this stuff. And so for anyone out there who's feeling like stuff is coming up and you don't want to, or look, we're talking about Reiki, how incredible Reiki is, how it's truth and faith and trust, right? And how we're just moving with it while Linda and I have these really powerful moments of resistance, and you are not alone.
I can tell you right now that for the next 50 sessions that I will do, I will not want to do the next 50 sessions. I know it because I will revisit. I got to be honest, okay? Really honest. I don't want to do this. But
Can I
I
quote
know
you?
it's helpful for me. Yeah, you can.
I'm going to quote
I say
Linda.
that because
I
whether I
hate
say yes or no,
this.
you will.
I No, I wouldn't
The
have said
resistance is futile.
consent. I need your consent. The quote from
You got
Linda
my
is, I hate
consent.
this.
Yeah, I hate this. I don't. It's not fun, okay? I
Mm-mm.
know
No.
I will, because I'm so clairvoyant, every single
Yeah.
time that I go and visit a past life, it's such a visceral
It's
experience.
brutal.
It's brutal. And I don't want to see everything that I'm going to see. And given the background that I already,
Yeah.
like the topics that I already shared, that I already know about this lifetime, I know it will be a lifetime where I am not going to recognize myself. And I know in those lifetimes I was exploring the shadow aspects to understand them. Um, I'm gonna look at myself and the horrible things that I did in other lives, and all the emotions that come up with that, all of the guilt that comes up with it, the sadness, the grief, the self-disgust that comes up with that, um, perhaps fear about being in a leadership position again. I mean, the fear is why it's coming up now, because there is some resistance from my end to step fully into that part of my journey. And I know I will be quite visible, like even more going forward. So that's why it's coming up. I need to address it so that I will not revert back to those shadow aspects of myself and the unhealed parts. That's why it's coming up. But that doesn't mean that it's fun necessarily, you know? Like it's important. It's kind of like when you're a child and you're taking some medicine and it tastes bitter and you kind of hate it and you don't want to take it. And every
Great
time you're
example.
arguing with your mom or your dad, you're like, I don't want to take this. It tastes disgusting. I
Yeah.
hate this. I don't want to do this. But you take it because that's how you get better and that's how
Right.
you get well again.
Right.
And that's how I feel about these 50 sessions. That's how I feel about the 50
Oh,
sessions.
but it's rough. We were just talking about how hard this work can be.
Yeah. I
Is there
think,
anything? Oh, go ahead.
no, I wanted to close the episode.
Me too.
Go ahead.
Uh, I just wanted to reiterate that Reiki is a choice to be on a journey. It's a choice to be on a journey. And it's a journey that will never disappoint you. I think that's a big statement to make, and I really mean that. As long as we continue to follow through, we're never disappointed. We might be temporarily disappointed. We might feel disappointment about something, but if we continue to walk through, it always takes us to the full circle of hindsight.
I feel like it's a journey to fully embody your soul essence in this lifetime on planet Earth. And I don't think it's the only journey and the only way that you can get there.
No.
There are many ways in which you can embody that, but it's the way that I chose for myself, and it's the right way for me. So, my wish for every single one of you listening or watching right now is that you find the way that is right for you to embody your full soul essence, to be authentically yourself, and to come home to yourself in this lifetime.
Yes.
We'll see you again next week where we talk about this entity stuff that we do that we alluded on, where I stopped myself to go too deep into the story. We're going to talk more about that, what that is, the attachment releasements, what are attachments, what are entities, what kind of entities can be there, how does all of this work, how does Reiki come into play. And with that said, have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you for listening to us and being with us, spending time with us. Hope to see you soon. Bye.
Bye.